everyone, my name is Jackie, and for today's video, I am explaining fencing. Fencing, the sport of fighting with swords, especially foil, épée, or a saber. A fencer is someone who participates in the sport of fencing or a sort of fighting. These are examples of fencing. In this game, the players have to touch each other through the tip of the sword, so playing equipment and safety equipment are needed. These are equipments needed in this game. Clothes is a cotton or a nylon, and fabrics like dynama are used to make the outfit of fencing players. Jackets are entirely designed for fencing, and a closely fitting with a special strap that goes between the legs are used to provide adequate protection to the fencers. Plastron is an underarm protector that is worn below the jacket, and it is used to provide extra protection to the sword, belly, arm, and some parts of the fencer's backsides. Mask. A fencing mask can support 2 kg on a metal mesh. A bib, which is made of ballistic materials, or a Kevlar, is included in the mask to protect the neck area, which supports 350 newtons of penetration resistance of the bib. Breeches and knicker. These are shorts, trousers that ends just below the knee. They are required to overlap 10 cm to the fencing jackets and equipped with braces. Gloves. One glove is used for the weapon arm, and it's stretched around half of the forearm. A gauntlet in the glove prevents blade from going into the sleeve and causing injury. Chest protector. It is made of plastic or aluminum, and it's mandatory for the female fencers and is used as a chest guard. Shoes and socks. The shoes use fencing specially designed with flat soles, as well as other changes in the inside of the back foot or the heel of a front foot to avoid problems during lunging, and they keep the fencer's foot in the place when he lunges. There are 3 different kinds of weapons are used in fencing, which are foils, épée, and sabre. Foil. It is a light thrusting weapon with a maximum weight of 500 grams, mainly designed for a thrusting. It is a very thin with a foiled or blunted tip. Épée has a V-shaped blade and also a thrusting weapon like a foil, but a little heavier in the weight and stiffer than foil, with a maximum weight of 770 grams. Sabre has a similar weight and length as a foil. It is a thrusting weapon as well as a cutting weapon with a weight of 500 grams.
Hi, I'm Racing Bowden and I'm on the 2012 London Olympic team. This is my teammate and friend, Miles Shamley Watson.
Yep.
So we're here to show you some fundamentals of fencing. The first fundamental of fencing
will be you're on guard. When the referee is saying to you, are you ready? You say yes, and you get on an on guard that looks similar to this.
Yep, so notice that Miles' front foot is his right foot. If you're a lefty like me, your front foot's gonna be your left foot. So you take your hand and you turn that foot out, and that's gonna be your on guard position. See how both his knees are right over his toes? That's a good on guard. It means your knees are bent properly and that he can move really well and really sharply when he's in that position. So that's the first fundamental of fencing. The second would be how to move while you're in that position. In order to go forwards,
you're gonna lead with your front, your most dominant leg. So I will lead with my front leg and finish with my back leg.
And that's an advance. So if Miles is gonna come at me, I'm gonna do a retreat to get out. And you move your back foot first and your front foot second, so it looks like this. That's a retreat. So if you're gonna be trying this at home, start with getting on guard, making sure your knees are over your toes. If you're coming forward, you start with your front foot, and notice how his heel touches first. It's not like this. It's his heel first and then his toe. So that's how you move around the strip. The final thing you do, Miles always makes fun of me because he says I have a funny lunge, but that's how you're gonna touch somebody. So if you're gonna touch somebody, you're gonna use a lunge. My lunge, you start with your front foot and you kind of kick it out. You kick forward with your front foot and you push off of your back leg and you touch like that. And that's your lunge. Miles's lunge looks a little different than mine. He goes more forward. So he goes forward and I go up because I like more time in the air. So everybody's is a little different. But those are the three fundamentals: how to get on guard, how to move around, and how to touch somebody. Now you got
the 2015 World Championships. Now, on the surface, they look pretty similar. But what you're looking at is, in fact, three very different events. There's the foil, épée, and the saber. They each have their own weapon and set of rules, and their roots can be traced back centuries. Now, my only cultural reference for fencing comes from the 1998 remake of The Parent Trap.
Fencers ready? On guard!
So I decided to travel 2 blocks from our New York City office to a veritable fencing oasis in the middle of Times Square, the Manhattan Fencing Center. It's produced 3 Olympians just this year. That's me, struggling. That's my very patient coach for the day, Brando Messinese.
Perfect, very good job. Retreat, retreat, parry, riposte.
But it all happens in a half a second.
It happens pretty fast.
So, where did fencing come from? An early form of fencing for sport can be traced back to ancient Egypt, but fencing as we know it today derived from the European duel. The design of swords evolved from a defense and hunting strategy of cutting and slashing to thrusting, because it was far more deadly and effective. The foil is the lightest of the 3 fencing weapons, and it appeared around 17th century Europe as a practice weapon for the small sword, a fashionable weapon often used in a duel to settle disputes. Around this time, fencing schools were established in Italy, Spain, and France, elevating the practice to a form of art and exercise. Foil fencing rules are the most limiting. You can only hit the torso and back, and only with the tip of the foil blade. This is where the term touché, or touch, comes from.
Touché!
In the 19th century, a sturdier weapon called the épée was introduced.
I would say for a first-time viewer of fencing, the easier one to see is épée.
That's because it's the slowest of the 3 events due to the whole body being a target area. Fencers are more hesitant to initiate an attack, exposing their whole body to their opponent. It is also the only of the 3 weapons where the right-of-way rule is not enforced. What's the right-of-way? Well, in a classic duel, the only way to win if you're being attacked is to parry or deflect your opponent's weapon and then riposte or attack your opponent. With the épée, simultaneous hits can occur, and both fencers will receive a And now, the fastest event, the saber.
A saber is the second fastest sport in the Olympic Games after the rifle shooting.
That means the blade is moving almost as fast as a bullet. Instead of just thrusting, the saber fencers can score on any part of the upper body with slashes and thrust. And because the right-of-way is enforced, saber fencers are more incentivized to attack first. You'll immediately recognize the difference between an épée and a saber bout because of the shape of the handguard and the speed of play. Fencing holds a special place in Olympic history because it's one of only 5 sports to be featured since the first modern games in 1896. It was a hugely popular sport.
Until the 30s, fencing bouts, like boxing, would take place in theaters.
This, of course, is where the salute comes from. In the mid-20th century, electricity replaced red chalk to make judging easier, and between the 1900s and the early 2000s, many fencing maneuvers further distanced the sport from its dueling roots. Nothing did that more than the flick.
People were used to be able to flick their blades in the back of their opponents, but then they changed the timings on the machines and then wouldn't work anymore.
Because a flick was so quick, it's less likely to register as a hit. Despite that, fencers still attempt this maneuver today. The International Fencing Federation and the IOC have done a lot to try and draw outsiders to the sport. At London 2012, the lighting systems alone looked like a techno dance floor, and the masks closely resembled Daft Punk headgear. But the essence of the sport, a fight between two people, remains. If you can just train your eye to watch split-second bouts, it's really pretty exhilarating to watch.
That's all. Thank you for watching, guys.